passes, whether he's inside, outside, doesn't matter. But I just love the fact that he's back in Arizona. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, you raise a point because in Bruce Arians' system, he had to morph into something different. He is likely going to have to morph again, isn't he?
No doubt. I think he's the best signing they're going to have this year.
Yeah.
I look at Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. I'm dead serious when I say that. I think he still has a lot of football, but what he brings to that football team,
yes,
and that locker room, is you can't even put a price on it. You can't even put a production piece on it. He is the Arizona Cardinals. He's a wonderful teammate, and I think it's their best signing.
And think about practice. So people, you see him on Sunday, but think about what he does for every receiver that's in that room, for every conversation that Kingsbury has to have with that wide receiver group, for when Rose, he's asking, hey, where do I go with the ball? Think about the calmness, the collection, the experience he can draw on and apply and give to these young guys. I agree with you. Best signing that they'll have. I'm fired up for him, man.
So basically, you feel like they should get a Kobe deal to Larry Fitzgerald, like a reward on the return on investment you made, just because you've given our organization so much. We should give you a balloon contract now.
I don't think he's hurting, Joseph.
Absolutely.
Look, you guys, I talked to Larry Fitzgerald's father, who likes to be called Original because he's Larry Fitzgerald Sr.
Yes.
And he said it was tough as a father to watch him go through that adversity, and that it wasn't really so much of physically hurting him, obviously just mentally to get through everything that you went through. And just think about the adversity that was, at the beginning of the season compared to the optimism that you had when Steve Wilkes was coming in. You had a new coach.
Right.
Sam Bradford was your starter. He only plays 3 games. You're giving him $20 million. He's not there. And then Josh Rosen struggling behind an offensive line that was the worst in pass blocking win ratio.
No.
So now you're hoping that that optimism renews there with a new coach in Cliff Kingsbury, and to see what that's going to turn out to be, and whether you can kind of show, is this model going to work here in Arizona the same way that it has worked in LA with McVay and Wade Phillips? And obviously now they've got Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator, trying to see if you can get a veteran D coordinator in there with the young guy, as they're doing in many places around the league, including Green Bay or what have you. So we'll see if it works out. Certainly it's going to be very exciting, and especially with the added component of his Kyler Murray going to end up coming to Arizona with. That's a whole another
segment. What does this say about, you think, Josh Rosen? That Larry feels comfortable with this? Not to say they don't go in a different direction, but what would you, if you were going to guess?
No, I think that's a great question, and I think it's real. I think he understands the air raid system. I mean, every player's watched it in college. You watch it in high school, may have even played it, but he understands what Rosen's strengths and weaknesses are, and he understands, hey, how many times, what are the opportunities to get the ball outside of the pocket or outside quickly without having to take sacks inside the pocket? Josina, you referenced it. They had the worst offensive line in the NFL. Well, guess what? The air raid helps that. Now Kingsbury's got to get a quick digestion of NFL pass rush. What does that look like? But Fitzgerald can help with alignment, movement, all of those things, understanding conceptually how you help the receiver get open. He obviously believes in Rosen wanting to come back and kind of take that experience again. Or maybe he knows something we don't know about Murray. I have no idea. I don't even want to get into that.
It's got to be a vote of confidence.
Yes.
I think it's important, too, when the offseason comes in, to take a little bit to get away from that misery of that last season. And then the beauty of the National Football League is teams go from the outhouse to the penthouse to the outhouse. And so that gets to settle in, and I think obviously he feels good about it.
But just real quick, when I talked to Larry in the middle of the season, we're talking about Josh Rosen. And I think this was in the midst of, Steve Wilkes going, and then you've got Byron Leftwich coming in as offensive coordinator. He expressed a lot of confidence in Josh Rosen just for his ability to weather the adversity, how mature he was, picking up the offense or what have you. So whenever I spoke to Larry, and it's not like that's a surprise, he was very complimentary of Rosen. I think the bigger really question, I know we're not talking about it this segment, is how they're going to handle it with the new quarterback talent coming in this draft. I think that's a whole separate thing.
Team president Michael Bidwell said in a statement, "No player has meant more to this franchise or this community than Larry Fitzgerald. We are thrilled he will be back for 2019." And we'll say it again, the league is a better place with Larry Fitzgerald, the humanitarian as well.
Reach that.
All right, let's turn to the youth that's heading our way. Senior Bowl practices underway in Birmingham, Alabama. Word is that this class is stacked along the D-line, and that's good news for the Raiders, who have 3 first-round picks, their biggest need, pass rusher. Here's Paul Gutierrez.
With 4 selections in the first 36 picks of April's NFL draft, including 3 first-rounders, the Raiders' rebuild under coach John Gruden and new general manager Mike Mayock began in earnest with Senior Bowl week. It was a less menacing Chucky who spoke Tuesday of putting players in positions to succeed rather than putting them through a grinder.
Well, it's just been great to spend time with players on both teams. You know, you might eliminate 4 or 5 players from your thought process. Sometimes that's just as valuable as moving 4 or 5 guys up on your board. Well, this is the 4th time that I've coached it, and it is an advantage, I think, because the pool of players every year is what it is. We've drafted players from this game before, and I'm sure we'll do that again.
Well, in 1999, Gruden drafted linebacker Eric Barton and defensive tackle Rod Coleman for Oakland after the Senior Bowl. And these Raiders, well, they have pass rushing needs 20 years later after finishing with a league-low 13 sacks. So Gruden rattled off the names of Montez Sweat from Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech's Jalen Ferguson, TCU's L.J. Collier, Boston College's Zach Allen. Those kind of players, Gruden said, always have a chance to move up the draft board at the Senior Bowl.
Mobile, Alabama, and it is a great opportunity to get an up-close and personal look at these guys in pads. This is really the last opportunity they get to do that. This is a defining draft, obviously, for John Gruden and Mike Mayock. What's at the heart of getting it right?
Well, I think, they were under a lot of criticism, not so much Mike Mayock, but John Gruden, of dealing off Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. Well, now is a chance to replace them. They weren't able to replace them last season. So this is going to be really critical that they choose wisely. And this game really does help. It's like the first week of training camp. You're in meetings. You're on the practice field. Now you get to see how they perform in the game. And it's very basic. They don't allow a lot as far as what you install. So you get a great feel of what it's going to be like to coach them once you draft them in the first week of training camp.
No, absolutely. I think when you look at this and where Gruden is, this is, can the chef get his own ingredients, and what does he make with it? And that's the reality of what this is. He let go of Mack, he let go of Cooper, 2 of his best players, and best players in the locker room, supposedly. I wasn't in it, but you know what I'm saying?
Doubt.
You hear
and
those
talent
things.
like Bruce Irvin, there's more talent.
Exactly. You're letting guys go. So this is going to be his stand, right? Is, hey, I'm going to take this thing. What are we going to do with it? No more excuses.
Nope.
No more explanations about, hey, we're going to do this and move this. I think ultimately Gruden gets a little peek behind the curtain on some of these guys. You better make the right move.
Yeah. But it's not just about own ingredients, right? Sometimes it's about, are those the best ingredients?
Yeah.
And you already had top of the line ingredients there. And Susie mentioned it, that the Raiders are looking for a pass rusher. I'd like to say that they're looking for a cheaper pass rusher, because obviously they had one. And don't forget, C.J. Anderson is, someone that they had for like 0.2 seconds as well. So.
Yeah. They need a lot.
He's helped a lot of teams this year. He's helped a lot of teams.
He's helped a lot of teams. That's true.
Yeah, he's been a giver in the NFL.
All right, they have the 4th overall pick, and as we know, they have a lot of ammunition to try to trade up. Pro Bowl practice is currently underway in Orlando. Next on NFL Live, we'll get you on the field, get you up close and personal with this year's Pro Bowlers. And later, we've got incredible one-handed catches, the meanest stiff arms, and the kick heard round the world with top plays of the year.
Practice field, and I had a chance to talk to him about what the last 3 days have been like, and he said, listen, Sunday night I didn't really sleep much. Monday was rough, especially because we had to sit and watch the game on tape. We watched it multiple times, and we've got a team group text going, and there's sort of a team therapist kind of going through on this team, meaning Cam Jordan's being that guy, and he's like, I'm trying to tell these guys, we could have done so much more on offense and defense. It wasn't just that missed call. Take a listen to how he's been reflecting in the last few days.
It is what it is in terms of how we lost, in terms of us going into overtime. I've watched the game no less than probably 10, 15 times. And at the end of the day, I've said it over and over again, we couldn't let them get that close to us. We had opportunities to squash the game that early. I'm sure the competition committee will learn from this and get better. It hurts that it hurt us the way it did.
So I asked him when he was watching that tape if he was watching specifically that moment when, the PI call was missed. He said, no. I actually took the time to look at what I didn't do right. There were so many moments that I could have been better. And it's obvious he is a leader on this team, and he's trying to get that message across. But I did ask him, what is it like in New Orleans right now with Saints fans just, so upset, so heartbroken about it. And he said, I want the Saints fans to know that they are the best fans in the country. And the way that dome sounded on Sunday was so helpful for us. But he really wants the fans now to just move on from it and just get ready for next season.
Diana, it seems like he has the proper perspective, more so than many other people at this point. By the way, NFL Live comes your way from the Pro Bowl the next 2 days. Wendy Nix as host. Look, anytime in life you're heartbroken, no matter what it is, it takes some mourning to get over it. But how do you help your team get over it?
Well, I think Cam Jordan, it shows, his attitude is why he's such a leader and such a great player. So I think, it's never one play. And I know everybody's making a big deal out of that, and I think too big of a deal, to be honest with you. But, the thing for them is they've kind of lost it, the last 2 years.
Right.
You look at the Minneapolis Miracle, and then to have this happen, I think that's a lot to overcome, especially on 2 seasons. But, hey, look, there's only one happy camper at the end of these seasons anyways, and that's whoever's hoisting that Lombardi trophy. So it's just as heartbreaking to lose the Super Bowl, and you've got to move on. There's only going to be one happy team at the end of this season.
I thought it was kind of interesting that he mentioned that he looked at the film 10 or 15 times.
That was surprising
That was
to me,
surprising
too.
because I remember talking to the Vikings after they, lost the NFC Championship, just coming into this season. And one of the things that the coaches told me there is that they did not watch the film at all. So to hear him say he watched it 10 to 15 times compared to a team that went through similar heartbreak at the NFC Championship level last year and didn't look at it at all, that's what stuck out to me from what he said.
Yeah, I think that shows you what kind of pro he really is. I love the fact that he owns the part that he could control.
Yep.
He can't control what happens with the referees, can't control different things that happen. He can control getting better as a player. Hey, where could I have been a difference maker? What should I have done? All of those things speak to how you lead a football team. And that's the truth of the matter. And whoever on his football team is evaluating that film, I can tell you as a former, you're not looking at the play with the penalty because you got no control over that one. You're looking at, did I miss my guy? Did he put pressure on Breed? Did he have to move his arm? Did I run my route right? Whatever the things were that you were accountable for on that play, that's what everybody evaluates. All the rest of it, you're upset after the game, you're upset but you'll go back and look at that. And I love his perspective. I think it's a great attitude that he has and one that everybody really should
control what you can control.
That's right.
Would you guess those guys are not watching the Super Bowl?
Oh, no, listen, I've been there.
Watch it.
The worst game to lose, honestly, the worst game to lose is the championship game. Worse than the Super Bowl,
Right.
It is so brutal to know all the fanfare that's leading up and you get to watch it all. It is a gut punch, straight up. That is, there's no way they're watching. Everybody's going to go from the Pro Bowl on vacation.
And Minnesota dealt with that because they had the opportunity to play in their house and missed out on that last year. So, it hurts.
Did you watch your championship game?
I did. I watched for my portion. Ours happened on a onside kick right out of half, and it hits a guy, and I watched it over and over. What could we do? And the worst part is when you go in your hotel, it's like on a loop.
Right.
So they have it.
You're not missing.
Yeah, every channel's running it, so you're seeing all your mistakes, and you're like, look, was I part of that problem? I mean, it is
Cartoon Network.
Yeah, it's just controlling your life for that night. It is. It's painful. It is.
And Diana mentioned therapy was involved in that.
That's
Everybody
it.
is chill.
Bring them out.
Yes.
All right, ahead. The quarterback market is always fun to watch in the offseason. This year, who's in the market for a quarterback, and which quarterback might find himself on the shelf? Let's go shopping next.